welcome to Red Boots and Heels. We're back with Talking Points.
I'm Boots.
And I'm Heels. We're so glad that you joined us this afternoon. We've got a really good subject to kind of touch on today. And one of the things that I want to talk about is, what happened at the Capitol and basically the hypocrisy and the way that the news media has decided to put it out there and comparisons to what we've been dealing with for a year and a half, 2 years of, BLM and Antifa and statues going down and other federal buildings being hurt and destroyed and destruction happening. Their comparisons, and actually one of the very first comparisons that really got to me was done by CNN, of course, on January 10th, Van Jones basically was making some pretty big statements. He was saying that there was no comparison between what's happened before and what's happening led up to that moment and what happened at the Capitol on the 6th. What do you think about that, Boots?
Well, Maxine Waters has had some pretty strong statements regarding. Now, Maxine Waters started using the term insurrection long time ago. I don't know. I know she used it back during the LA riots in 1992, 93, whenever that took place. Yep. She referred to that as insurrection. We're talking 63 people dead, over 2,000 people injured. And that was insurrection because in her mind and in her words, people were acting out in a sense of hopelessness and that they didn't have an establishment that listened to them. And I'm kind of curious of how it's different then than it is now.
Well, according to Van Jones, it's extremely different that really this all comes down to race. This all comes down to the difference in the way that people are treated. His own statements was basically in saying that, look at this. And he actually did admit to this even on news, that it said that, they were let in by the police and they were escorted out and the entire mob of them, nobody's been arrested. This is just, again, reminder audience, 4 days, only in 4 days after the what happened on the at the Capitol, and he's saying that all of those people are out eating pancakes. I can assure you today that those people are not eating pancakes. All right, a lot of them are still locked up to this day, and we'll get into that in just a moment. But he's basically saying, if you compare that to what's been going on with the, otherwise peaceful protesting, which I don't even see how, you could even call it peaceful protesting, we've been dealing with it for so long.
How do you call that peaceful protesting? We've had arson, we've had looting, we've had rioting of all sorts, we've had assaults, we've had murders. So I'm just kind of curious how that's peaceful protesting or people just acting out in frustration. That's not what that is.
Yeah. Well, I don't deny that there was a lot of bad people that went into the Capitol. But what he's doing is he's bunching every single person together, making it a racial situation, which it was not. And he's basically saying that, if it had been, a lot of just primarily black people, that this whole thing would have been handled differently. So, I'm saying right now that's not true. Well, what's just an untruth, another untruth spun by CNN out there.
What is really a big curiosity for me is statistically they found that they had between 450 and 500 arrests, I guess, at this point, and a majority of those people actually came from Biden strongholds in Biden voting districts, so Democratic voting districts. So, there's a lot that could be said. I don't agree with really anybody who went inside the Capitol building that day, who vandalized, who
were destructive,
trespassed into the Capitol. But what I'm saying is that according to the past and people like Maxine Waters, who have been a lifetime career criminal politicians, is why do some people get a pass on venting their frustrations and their fears, yet others don't? And who gets to decide whose emotions are important and whose are not?
Well, and that couldn't be a truer statement all along. I mean, I think basically what's happening here is the world has rallied around, or a lot of people have rallied around the idea that we have somehow, not in this division that we have from a political standpoint, has now moved over into a racial situation, which honestly, before Obama, I think was mostly gone anyway. We can do a whole segment on that at some point. But in reality there, what his statement is that everything would have been handled quicker, faster, every single body would have been in jail, I guess, the night of. I mean, here's the thing. He said in his statement was that they already had them inside, and if that would have been black people inside, and there was, I mean, there's black people in jail right now that went in. There's this idea that no one, there's no black people for Trump is absolutely ludicrous, and there are black and white, Hispanic, everybody of every nationality basically that is in jail, over what's going on in the Capitol. So that statement in itself is false. And I'm quite frankly just sick and tired of having, people that are in, on platforms that are able to reach, millions of people, just bringing the emotion into it and basically stating things that are unfactual. And that's unfactual. There are lots of people in jail, maybe in 4 days.
I kind of want to circle back to something. Circle back,
Yeah.
That term.
Yeah, exactly.
We're talking about different groups of people, etc. And there were a lot of people. Actually, most people were probably not even affiliated with even attending the any sort of peaceful demonstration. But John Sullivan, for instance, the BLM activist and the leader of Insurgents USA, who actually was on probation for charges he had from rioting in 2020 or 2020. Yeah, it was 2020.
Yeah.
That he led a riot where someone was actually shot by one of his rioters after he incited violence. He was already on probation. There is 2 hours of video showing him leading the charge, breaking into the Capitol building, causing damage, inciting violent acts, you name it. Now, mind you, he was already on probation, was not supposed to even take part in Insurgents USA. He was arrested, and the prosecutors asked the judge to keep him in jail until his hearing. She went ahead and let him out.
Yeah.
Now, but mind you, there are other people that are still to this day in jail, awaiting their trial dates, that have not been that have not participated in any sort of destructive or violent activity whatsoever.
The punishment should fit the crime, though, in every case. And by Van Jones putting everybody into the same box, he's basically saying that everybody should be held accountable, and that everybody's guilty of the exact same thing. And that's just exactly not true. There were a lot of bad people that went in, but there was also some good people that were patriotic people that just didn't do.
They were naive and they got caught up in the moment, and they made some really bad choices.
But let's just look at one such case right now. The case of Richard Barnett, and we're going to go ahead and show you a clip of that. We'll show you a picture of him, and you probably already have seen that picture because it's gone pretty much worldwide. And we'll take a look at that right now. Pretty much, explain that he did take an envelope from the office, but he did leave a quarter on the desk, and he paid for that envelope. I mean, literally think about the mindset there. You dig in your pocket for a quarter to make sure that you are not stealing anything. So
to leave a statement. Yeah. To leave a statement.
So let me give you a little background on him. He's 60 years old. He's not been in any trouble. There's no priors. He's been married for over 20 years. He's raised a couple of children that he's been a father to for all of those years, and a good one, a good family member, lots of local support. He does a lot of good work he was a firefighter in Memphis, Tennessee. He did a lot of local support for the police. And, so all around really just a good guy. And, I do believe he took a photo opportunity and he had something to say to, Nancy Pelosi. And, he did do that. There's no question about that. But if you notice across the board, on all the news stations and everything that you can dig up on this person, there is no other photos and no other video footage of him, with the exception of those couple of things. And none of that shows him destroying anything. And I can tell you, throughout the Capitol of our USA Capitol, there would be hundreds of probably more than that, cameras in there that would have shown him on every single news channel out there, him doing something terrible. And yet there's nothing to show that. So he has a list of charges on him, and part of it, one of the charges are even stating putting his feet up on a certain desk. Look it up, people. It's absolutely ridiculous. We have an entire segment on our website at redbootsandheels.com. And my thought process, real quickly, before we kind of get more into it, is, so what do you do? The punishment should fit the crime. He was wrong. He should not have gone in. His statement is that he was kind of forced in, it was let in, whatever. That'll come out in his criminal case. But however, he spent his whole life, 60 years, and right now, he's in a position of losing everything, because he's still, this moment as we are shooting this, sitting in a jail for really not much more than trespassing, really.
Right.
And has no priors. So there is why I have a problem with, these people that are doing these great big comparisons, because there really is no comparison between Richard Barnett and some of these people out here.
John Sullivan.
Yeah.
John Sullivan, who is a criminal, has a criminal record, has incited riots, caused someone to be shot.
Yeah. And it was said that, they stole some stuff out of there, whatever, but no proof that he, in this particular, I'm just bringing him to mind, did any of that. I can certainly remember lots and lots of video footage of federal buildings being vandalized, burned, and also Nikes under lots of people's arms, and that was clearly theft. So the comparison thing, it's really got me kind of mad.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we need to have fairness. We don't need to have laws for some, but not for all. And who gets to choose when we have certain laws? It should be cut and dry. We shouldn't have prosecutors and judges that are biased in who they has consequences.
And they're making the punishment much more severe based on their own emotional connection to it, rather than, the actual crime that is being committed. And that's just, if we start doing that, and this America is definitely not the America that we know.
You don't get to virtue signal.
Yeah.
According to your own beliefs. You don't get to use that when you
according to Maxine Waters, you do.
Well,
I mean, look what happened after the George Floyd thing. I mean, she's literally telling people to hit the streets and go into restaurants and to incite violence and, stand up and do this and do that. I mean, we could throw you tons of video footage of that.
She's incited violence against people who had different political affiliations than her for decades. I mean, all back really to the end of the 80s, and especially during the LA riots, she was very vocal, and she's been very, very vocal since then.
She just did it in Minnesota.
What we do know is that she has traveled to another state to incite riots.
Yeah.
So, and encourage rioters. So, I mean,
which is causing harm, and which is causing people to get injured.
Well, and other people are jailed for that.
Yeah.
So, and in jail still for that.
Yeah.
So
that's a bigger crime. That's a bigger crime than really what than what we're just now talking about. So, and she's supposed to be representing the American people. So, I have a real issue with that. I'm really, really sick of this race baiting and this ongoing idea that it's one color or the other that makes a difference. Listen, the punishment should fit the crime. Everybody that did a crime should have punishment for it. But let's go ahead and individualize that, because the crime itself is individualized.
Absolutely.
Anyway, we hope that you will join us at redbootsandheels.com. And also our email is talkingpoints@redbootsandheels.com. Feel free to go in there and comment, and we'd love to hear from you. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.